Traffic news. Take a look at this. One person has been killed and 3 injured in a fiery wreck off of I-16 and Pooler Parkway. This is video from a WTOC viewer, and you could see those flames and the firefighters as they were arriving.
Guess what happened to Governor Brian Kemp? The governor's got a couple of daughters, and one of the daughters going out with a 20-year-old guy named Harrison Deal. D-E-A-L. And not only was he in a car crash, the cars exploded. He burned to death.
Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. So what is the deal with Harrison Deal? I know the subject is disturbing. I do not mean to be insensitive. This is a tragedy. But it also doesn't at least automatically pass the smell test. So we're going to look at that. We're going to talk about some other things going on in Georgia. So let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.
Hey everybody, hope you're having a great weekend. By the way, as always, please smash the like button. It helps us with the algorithms that especially Facebook is fighting so hard to point against us. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and hit the notifications bell. That does help us. But okay, so this story with Harrison Deal, and once again, let me say, I do not mean to be insensitive. This is a tragedy. This young 20-year-old lost his life way too soon, and want to be respectful of that, but doesn't automatically pass the smell test. I'm not drawing any specific conclusions, but I'm not afraid either to ask questions about something that just looks kind of strange. I first heard about this listening to Hal Turner last night, which would have been December 4th, and he mentioned this story. I learned that Harrison Deal was dating Brian Kemp's daughter, one of his daughters, and that 6 hours after Brian Kemp said finally that he was calling for a recount with signature verification, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Signature verification, 6 hours later, tragically, Harrison Deal was killed in a car crash that looks kind of strange. It just looks kind of strange. I don't care how you slice it. And so who was Harrison Deal? Harrison Deal was 20 years old at the time of his death. In 2019, he interned for Senator David Perdue, who's up for re-election in this special election that's happening January 5th, just about a month from now. At the time of his passing, he was actually a campaign staffer for Kelly Loeffler, who was in that same election. And as I said earlier, he was dating one of Governor Kemp's daughters. So, 6 hours after the governor finally calls for a recount with signature verification, it just looks like maybe it's kind of strange. As I was listening to Hal Turner's program, he asked a question, and it was just a question, but I want to play that question for you right now.
Do you think Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia was sent a message with that killing? Do you think, let's say, the Communist Party of China may have sent Governor Kemp a message to keep his mouth shut about signature audits? Or what?
Is that a crazy question? No, it's just an honest question. And once again, it's a question. Nobody's stating definitely this or that, but why should we be afraid to ask questions about something that at the very least is a really odd, tragic coincidence? Now, Hal Turner is the gentleman that reported, according to his sources. Now, Hal Turner used to be in a special ranking within the FBI, and he's got sources that I certainly don't have, but he is the one that alleged, and that was also echoed on the Marshall Report, but the original source was Hal Turner, that according to his sources, that Brian Kemp, governor of Georgia, and Brad Raffensperger, Secretary of State, Georgia, sealed their fate when they certified an election that they knew was not accurate. And Attorney Lynn Wood has unabashedly spoken, most recently at that rally that happened on Tuesday, I believe it was. I know I talked about it, but the days run together. But Lynn Wood says unequivocally that Brian Kemp is dirty, that Brian Kemp is corrupt, that Brian Kemp has taken Chinese money. Some of it was funneled through PPE and appropriations for COVID-19, stuff, PPE, whatever. But think about that for just a moment. If that's true, and I don't know if it's true or not, but if it's true, there's an awful lot on the line here. And if the ties to corruption go that deep, who knows what would happen? So I want to look specifically at this accident in just a moment, but I want to play you a clip that would show the significance of a recount that had signature verification, and I think you will find it most interesting.
There in Fulton County. And we also had another special surprise, which was that we had found a voting machine, or at least a county, where votes were flipped from President Trump to former Vice President Joe Biden.
What county was that? Was that Ware County?
It was Ware County. It's a small southeastern Georgia county. And 37 votes were flipped there from Trump to Biden. Which ironically is the exact percentage-wise of total votes that Joe Biden is currently leading President Trump by in Georgia.
That gentleman's name is Garland Favorito. Garland Favorito was scheduled to testify at the latest hearing that took place in the state of Georgia. He states in that interview that there was a member, it might have been the top dude, I can't remember, but a member of the Georgia legislature that did not want him to testify. And he had a couple things that he was going to testify about, a couple of witnesses, but for the sake of this discussion, the salient point is that they had done a hand recount in a very small county in Georgia and had found 37 votes that had been flipped from Trump to Biden. Now, 37 votes is not going to overturn the Georgia election, but interestingly enough, he states that they were at the same percentage as what supposedly Biden is now magically leading President Trump by. That must be a really, really small county. By the way, I just got to say, yes, this is what is called, ladies, a junk shirt. Had a little disagreement with the wife a little bit ago, and what you ladies need to understand is that all men have certain items of clothing that, yes, would probably be best used to line the dog cage, all right? But what is also true is that often those items are the very best and most favorite items that we own. I have one t-shirt that really looks like I stole it from a homeless guy in San Francisco, and that's my favorite t-shirt, but I digress. But 37 votes, not a big deal. The percentage, a very big deal. And if a hand signature verified count is done in Georgia, if that would show the amount that Dominion has flipped votes, well, that would be kind of significant. So let's leave that right there for just a moment. I want to look at this crash. I played the video in the very opening, but I want to look at it again, and then I want to talk about it.
Traffic news. Take a look at this. One person has been killed and 3 injured in a fiery wreck off of I-16 and Pooler Parkway. This is video from a WTOC viewer, and you could see those flames and the firefighters as they were arrived on the...
I'm not in the news business. Chances are neither are you, but haven't we all heard the term, if it bleeds, it leads? If it burns, it earns, earns viewership. Why did I have to search? I had to search for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes before that came up. And that tape aired on WTOC Channel 11 at about noon. But then by the evening, it was scrubbed. They weren't showing that. And it's not on their website. I did a search on this story, and if it wasn't for the fact that certain things seem to be suppressed, I don't think I'd even be talking about this right now, but it just doesn't seem right. It's going to take a couple of minutes, but I want to take you through just a basic search and how you have to really dig before there's even any suspicion about this or any factual reporting about the crash itself. Because let me just say, I saw a post, a social media post, and the trucker said, as a trucker that's been trucking for 20, 30 years, I can tell you blah, 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 blah. And if you read the post, like crashes like that happen all the time. Are you kidding me? I live 5 minutes from I-275 in Cincinnati. It's really, really, really busy. Another 5 minutes, you're on I-71. You go down to downtown Cincinnati on 71. There are accidents on those two pieces of highway all the time. I can't remember in 20 years of being in this town ever seeing or hearing about a crash like that. You know what it reminded me of? You'd have to be close to my age to be able to remember this, but wasn't it in the late 80s or early 90s when NBC did a hit job on the Chevy Silverado pickup truck, and they showed that if the Silverado pickup truck was hit from the side, it would just explode. But then it was found out that they had hired Hollywood stunt people to engineer those trucks. They put a bomb on them, and that's how they got the results. And they were sued for that, and of course they should have been sued. All I'm saying is, folks, did you look at that footage? How does that happen? When you pull up the map on this is just a straight piece of highway. I don't know how fast the traffic is traveling, and somebody else pointed out that I read, I mean, man, there's a lot of safety precautions on vehicles these days. You just don't see that. That was pretty. I mean, when was the last time that you've driven by and everybody's rubbernecking, looking all over the place, and you've seen an accident? But when was the last time that you saw an accident where there was that kind of explosion and that kind of fire? So after I heard about this story from Hal Turner, I just decided to do a quick Dogpile search. And this story from the Washington Times is pretty typical. Campaign staffer for Kelly Loeffler dies in car crash. So it's about Kelly Loeffler, not about Harrison Deal. We'll move to this is from the Daily. Harrison Deal, campaign staffer, died in a car crash. You can read more, and it takes you to an identical-looking website that doesn't have a story either. This is from Grice Connect, and again, pretty typical. Talking about Harrison Deal, he was a staffer, picture of him with Governor Kemp. He was dating the governor's daughter. Governor Kemp's Twitter post, Kelly Loeffler's Twitter post. But then you get to the Daily Mail, and they're actually willing to call it a fiery three-car crash, and they're actually willing to show some pretty disturbing pictures about it. Why does the Daily Mail feel comfortable showing those pictures and American media doesn't? This is from a local affiliate there, and it wasn't until I get to like page 4 or 5 that I start to get like, this is the USA News, and they refer to this as a no details about the quote accident unquote. So they're at least a little suspicious. This is the count.com, and this is the way they conclude their like couple of sentence paragraph. The cause of the crash remains under investigation. But I want to get over here to, this is from WTOC channel 11 there in Georgia, and I want to listen to this video here real quick.
Loeffler. So this is a story we're going to continue to follow as we gather more information. We'll bring it to you on WTOC, the news, and our website, WTOC.com. We'll be right back.
If it wasn't for that last piece of video from WTOC, I don't think that I'd be bringing this to you today. I don't think I'd be talking about it. But when I saw that, it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. He's saying, as we follow the story, we'll bring you more info. You've already got more info that you're not showing, and I just showed y'all that a little bit ago. You've got a car that blew up. There were people that posted on social media. They heard a big boom. It sounded like a bomb, and you've already got video of it. And by the time it rolls around and the editorial department has had their basic discussions of what to air, not to air, you've decided to leave that out and put a sugar-coated version out there. I don't know, folks. It just doesn't pass the smell test with me. It doesn't look real. Now, so this could be one of two things. It could just be a horrific, tragic coincidence. It absolutely could be. But what if it's not? What if there is something sinister that has taken place, what would that be? Well, you know, some have said that, well, he knew too much. This young man knew too much about the malfeasance in the electoral process there in Georgia. He just knew too much. They had to take him out. I don't think so. This young man was a big supporter of Governor Kemp. He's dating his daughter, okay? If there is anything nefarious, it would seem to me that it would be a signal to the higher-ups there, you better leave this alone. And if that signal was being sent, who would it be sent by? Well, if Lynn Wood's correct, and there is Chinese corruption, is that beyond the realm of possibility? Because if that's beyond the realm of possibility, then yes, I concede. Vince Foster, it never happened. Seth Rich, it never happened. And yes, we all know that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself without assistance. This, I don't know, maybe I'm just rambling, but it kind of reminds me of a story from about 5-6 months ago. Remember back in April, there was that story of that young man. He was Asian in Philadelphia. I know it was Pennsylvania, but it was Philadelphia. But the story ran that he was claiming to have a cure for the coronavirus, and he was murdered in his apartment, and his assailant was found a few miles away and had put a gun to his own head. And I remember looking at that story, checking it out from a couple of sources, and they all said exactly the same thing, and that's all they said. And it just didn't seem real to me. If this guy said he had a cure for the coronavirus, wouldn't a real reporter dig into that, want to know more about it? Wouldn't you want to know why was he murdered? Who was the guy that wouldn't you really want to go into detail? But it was just this whitewashed little bland story that was repeated in a couple of sources, like it was a way of taking a situation and kind of dealing with it and making it go away all at the same time. I'm just going to say, folks, if there is something nefarious, and I'm not saying there is, but I'm certainly not saying there isn't, if the Chi-Coms are involved, if the CCP is involved, let me ask you a question. Have they ever been known to disappear anybody? Have you heard of anybody that ever just disappeared because of those guys? Something to think about. Appreciate you watching. If you can, please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Please leave a comment. Maybe there's nothing here. I'm not saying there is. It doesn't seem right to me. So there's more that we could talk about in Georgia, but that'll save for another video. Please leave a comment. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio. And God bless the United States of America, where Donald Trump is going to be sworn in for his second consecutive term. See you later.